Dalada Maligawa. We are delighted to bring to you the official live broadcast of the special Janaraja Perahera 2023, the royal commemoration of the 75th independence anniversary of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, organized by the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
Walking up front with the sound of whips piercing through the skies are the whip crackers announcing that the procession has started, and the whip master clearing the way for the sacred casket and the king.
Sri Lanka, the pearl of the Indian Ocean, the granary of the East, an island nation of South Asia, has always been a multinational state that is home to diverse cultures, languages, ethnicities. Formerly known before as Thambapani, Serendib, Tabrupane, and Ceylon, Sri Lanka has always been strong and victorious in several political incidents throughout many years of written history.
During a period of great political crisis in the Kingdom of Kotte, the Portuguese arrived in Sri Lanka and sought to control the island's maritime trade, with a part of Sri Lanka subsequently becoming a Portuguese possession. After the Sinhalese-Portuguese War, the Dutch and the Kingdom of Kandy took control of those areas.
The Dutch possessions were then taken by the British, who later extended their control over the whole island, colonizing it from the years 1815 to 1948. A national movement for political independence arose in the early 20th century, and on the 4th of February 1948, Ceylon became a dominion, independent of foreign control of politics, transferring the ownership of Sri Lanka back to our own Sri Lankans.
Today, in the year 2023, we celebrate 75 years of our ruling our monarch, and this grand possession we are broadcasting to you from the great heritage city of Kandy is the very special procession of the monarch that is held under the patronage of the 9th Executive President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, His Excellency Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe.
In the ancient times, it was the ruling king who would parade the streets in the Perahera, but now it is the Diyavada Nilame, the lay custodian of the sacred tooth relic, who will resemble the king in the modern day Perahera. And this team of whip wielders are led by Mr. Upali Jayaratna.
It is also believed that the sound of the whip cracking depicts the sound of thunder and lightning, paying homage to rain gods, requesting to bless our crops and cultivations with rain.
The whip master's duty is handed down from generation to generation of their clans. Only those who have mastered the art of whip cracking will be taken for Peraheras in Kandy. According to traditions, a Perahera which does not have this pedigree are not even worth being called such.
The Janaraja Perahera is a very special ceremony that had been held from the ancient times of our kings, dating back to years beyond 1875. We all know about the annual Asala, Vesak, Posun, New Harvest and Kartika Perahera of Sri Dalada Maligawa, but this rare occasion of the Janaraja Perahera would not be much familiar to you, isn't that, Nilesh?
Indeed, Pasasna. So, throughout this Perahera, we'll be letting you know and educating you on many interesting facts behind these stories, And walking now in front of us, we see the fire acrobats. Rain does not come with thunder alone. Just as lightning would flash across the skies, the procession too has its flashes of light, dancing across the faces of people who would be lining the streets to watch this Janaraja Perahera.
This is the offering of fire, inviting the rain gods to water our lands with rain. The lightning which comes with rains, a phenomenon of nature, is magnificently depicted by this group of fireball dancers.
Back in the history, Kandyan performing arts have been classified into 5 variants, which are Wahala Ilangama, Singakari Ilangama, Tambarapittukari Ilangama, Natum Ilangama, and the Kavikara Maduwa. And it was the order of the king that all 5 of these classifications must perform in the Perahera.
The Wahala Ilangama that was mentioned before, it comprises of acts that creates a sense of thrill among the spectators, and the fireball dance we see in front of us is one such example of the Wahala Ilangama.
The fireball dance is performed in 3 levels that are known as the Bintalaya, which is the low level, the Madatalaya, which is the mid level, and the Ahastalaya, which is the sky level. That would be the highlight act of the fireball dance, that is performed through standing on each other with great discipline and balance.
Nilesh, it would be fascinating for us to look back and explore about the story of the Janaraja Perahera. History tells us that this procession had always been held under the command of the king to commemorate royal occasions such as crowning a new king, anniversaries of ruling the kingdom, and special exhibitions of the sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha, to list a few. The interesting fact is that they had been held several times a year.
Indeed, a record of the first Janaraja Perahera that had been held after the reign of the Sinhalese date back to the year 1875, which was to commemorate the occasion of the Duke of Wales, Prince Edward, who was the brother of Sri Lanka's ruler, Her Majesty Queen Victoria, visiting Sri Lanka, which had also been followed by a special exhibition of the sacred relics during the reign of Sri Lanka's governor William Henry Gregory and the Diyawada Nilame Kuda Bandara Nugawela.
So Nilesh, turning off the fireballs is actually called Pandam Palaya, which paints the night with varied patterns of light illuminating the procession. The oil-soaked racks are tied to an iron wheel with leather thongs, and once those are lit and the dancers perform their dance by turning the wheels fast, gradually increasing its speed.
And these fireball dancers are led by Mr. E.D. Tilakaratna.
The splendor of the dance is seen when a large group of them performs simultaneously, merging their various fiery elements into an amazing display of light and heat. This tradition is handed down from generation to generation, with individuals of all ages, from the very young to the very old, taking part in the display of the priceless and cultural heritage of their clan.
The dancers are seen creating their paintings of fire across the night sky as they move in the procession. For the children, it is a fire play, but for the elders, it is a devout, committed fire offering.
The sun, moon, earth, universe, solar month, night and day are all cyclic, and the fire dances highlight these universal cycles and how they burn and cool us in our life cycles. Next in the line of the procession are the Buddhist flag bearers who are dressed in white national costumes, who are carrying the most respected flag of Buddhism while being processed by the national flag of Sri Lanka.
The Buddhist flag is a symbol of faith and peace. The 6 colors of the flag, which represent the aura that emanated from the body of Lord Buddha when he attained enlightenment under the sacred Bodhi tree. The horizontal stripes represent the races of the world living in harmony, while the vertical stripes represent eternal world peace.
The sight of the Buddhist flag creates a sense of tranquility on the onlookers, reminding them that this is in celebration, devotion, and an offering to the Lord Buddha and Bodhi.
The particular visit of the Duke of Wales, which I told you before, had been a transforming event to the city of Kandy. Would you be knowing why, Prasasna?
Yes, Nilesh. It includes the complete restoration of the Bogambara Lake, constructing an extension to the Magulumaduwa or the Assembly Hall, and the creation of the water fountain by the Coffee Planters Association that still exists in great prestige near the Pattini Devala premises.
And now we see the arrival of the Peramunerala.
So, it is the norm of the procession that the Peramunerala, or the front runner of the procession, is the first person on elephant back, and neither officials nor elephants are permitted to parade before the Peramunerala.
And this tusker is Vijayaraja, belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa. Vijayaraja is a tusker who was gifted to the Sri Dalada Maligawa by the Kingdom of Thailand in the year 1986, and he stands to be the most senior tusker of the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables, who is the most superior to be leading the procession this evening.
Clad in a white costume and a triangular hat, the Peramunerala comes into weave ceremoniously, carrying the secretarial scroll, which is also known as Lekammittiya, encased in a round long silver casket as part of the traditions of the procession. Now you will see that glamorous scenario.
In front of us is the official Hevisi troupe of the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
So the 4 Hevisi drum beaters who are permanently seconded to the service of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. Their presence in the front of the procession is a traditional, and they perform with a majestic skill. No Panchatura Vadana which is traditional orchestra of Sinhala music, or making musical sounds using either drums or other instruments is permitted before them.
The Hevisi group, presenting the traditional orchestra of Sinhala music of Panchathura Nada Vadana using the Panchathura Banda. The 5/4 musical instruments include the dowel, thammattam, hand music instruments, and the horanava, which is the Sri Lankan horn, which are played together to create a symphonic sound.
The most skilled Hevisi drummers, lineages of Sri Dalada Maligawa, namely Uduvela, Malagammana, Ihaluvela, and Molagoda, are represented in the first row, serenely marching to the beat of the drums. They are contributing with great devotion to the celebration. The 4 leaders depict the recognition given to them by the king.
And now we see images which we received from the President's Media Division of the 9th Executive President of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, His Excellency Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, who will be watching this glamorous Janaraja Perahera.
Continuing, they are contributing with great devotion to the celebration. The 4 leaders depict the recognition given to them by the king through the ways in which they decorate their Hevisi drums. Drums are being incorporated to make the unique sound. We hear the beats of the drum and the tunes of the horanava, which is the traditional Sri Lankan horn, soaring up to the skies up above the Senkadekala kingdom. Now you can see the Gajanayaka Nilame with his golden coat, which is called Hendur, majestically approaching on his tusker. The Gajanayaka Nilame was the royal official in charge of the king's troop of elephants, and it was a position given to him directly by the king himself.
And this tusker, who is carrying the Gajanayaka Nilame this evening, is Migara, belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa in Kandy. Migara is a tusker who was gifted to the Sri Dalada Maligawa in the year 1999 by the former President of Sri Lanka, Mrs. Chandrika Bandaranayake.
Yes, to symbolize the fact, Gajanayaka Nilame, who is attired in a colourful Sinhala Mullanduma, majestically approaches on his tusker.
Next in line, with the beat of this upcountry Gatabere, we see the arrival of the Kothala Pade dancers, who are being trained and led by Mr. Nalin Jayasekara of the Sri Dalada Maligawa School of Dance.
When it comes to Kothala dance, the water carrier dances depict purity. The dance is simple and an example of the simplicity of Buddhism. It is a recent addition to the Dalada procession. The dance symbolizes sprinkling of saffron water from the pots in their hands along the path of the procession to purify the path. Seeing this holy pot is considered a welcome sight, which is turn leads to well-being and fame.
Looking back at the history of the Janaraja Perahera, the next Janaraja Perahera that had been held had been 79 years later to commemorate the arrival of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II to Sri Lanka in the year 1954, along with the Duke of Edinburgh, who had watched the Perahera from the majestic balcony of the octagon of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, known to all as the Pattirippua, with the presence of the former Prime Minister, Mr. John Kothalavala, and the Governor, Mr. Oliver Gulatirika.
Looking at the Kothalapadaya dance, Kothalapadaya is a classical dance adapted to the Perahera from the grand old ritual Kohomba Kankarya. The steps and the extended arms add glamour to the procession.
On the mount of the third elephant, we see the arrival of an official who will be carrying a Buddhist flag to symbolize a resemblance of Buddhism of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, and this elephant is Nalaka, belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa. Nalaka is an elephant who was gifted to the Sri Dalada Maligawa in the year 1989 by the former Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Mr. Ranasinghe Premadasa, and today Nalaka stands to be one of the 10 tallest elephants in Sri Lanka. Coming into our pictures next, we see the Chamara dance, which is being trained and led by Mr. Nimesh Sumanaratna of the Chandananda Buddhist College in Kandy.
Chamara dances, a popular folk dance that symbolizes fanning. The white tassels are fanned to a rhythm, and the slight breeze it produces brings a pleasant feeling. This was a regular feature in the royal courts in ancient times. The Chamara dancers hold white colored tassels in both hands and wear colorful costumes. They dance in a group and move up and down the streets as if they're fanning the upcoming Perahera cascade.
Indeed, that's the story of the Kandy Asala Perahera, but the speciality of the Janaraja Perahera is that we won't be seeing the casket who will be perambulating in the streets, but instead, the role of these Chamara dancers are to fan the intending approach of the king, who is represented by the Dalada Nilame.
(1978) was the year in which the third King's procession has been held, which was to commemorate the change in Sri Lanka's political constitution, which was graced by the first executive president of Sri Lanka, Honorable J.R. Jayawardena. In fact, it was the very first time that the prestigious emblem of Sri Lanka was carried by the great Tusker Raja of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. This was again from the long history of Janaraja Perahera. Coming back to the Chamara dances, as per Salalihini Sandesha, a poetry in the Kotte period, white tassels in motion and majestic elephants are considered an auspicious sign.
And following that dance, we see another official carrying a Buddhist flag. And this particular elephant walking in front of us is quite special. He is an elephant who is not taking part in the Kandy Asala Perahera, but is visiting Kandy after a very long time, and he is none other than Raja, belonging to the veteran elephant owner, Mr. W.P. Deepthi Kumara. Raja too was in fact once a resident of Kandy, and now he comes to this Janaraja Perahera, all the way from the city of Biyagama, who lives a very calm life adjoining the Kalani River. And now, following Biyagama Raja, we see the Thalang dance, which is once again represented by Mr. Nimesh Subasinghe of the Sri Chandananda Buddhist College in Kandy.
Thalam dance is a popular dance found in many parts of Sri Lanka. And this is the Kandian form of the Thalam dance to the vibrant sounds of the Getabere and Thammatama. This dance with the colorful cloth attached to the thalam falls under Rupanatum, meaning picturesque dance. Looking again back at the history of Janaraja Perahera, the fourth King's procession has been held in the year 1981 when Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II had visited Sri Lanka for the second time for the opening ceremony of Victoria Dam during the reign of Basnayaka Nilame, Honorable Nissanka Wijeratne. But in this particular instance, Her Majesty Queen had weaved this procession in a special stage built in a similar shape to the octagon made for her of this esplanade of Sri Dalada Maligawa.
Similar to the previous occasion, even in this time, it was the great Tusker Raja of the Sri Dalada Maligawa who carried the national emblem that was made using brass and coated in silver. Traditional Sri Lankan dance form is rich in its own means. Sri Lanka is home to three main styles of dance: upcountry, low country and Sabaragamo. And the speciality of the Peraheras organized in this Kandian kingdom is the flavor of these authentic upcountry dance acts. The team spirit that is seen within these dances depict the unity among the people of Sri Lanka and how they group together in order to make this act a perfect one. Following this Thalam dance act, we see the little elephant Sudumanike, who is belonging to Mr. Buddhika Mirihalla of Kadugannava. Speaking of the Mirihalla family in Kadugannava, it is interesting to note that the current tallest elephant in Sri Lanka, Rama, also belongs to the same Mirihalla family. And even though Rama is not seen in the Perahera today, we see his accomplice Sudumanike, who is adding his glamour to the Perahera. It is noted that the costumes of these elephants are different to one another, with different colors, different shades and different designs in them. And one of the common features, Pasamska, if you can notice, are the flowers, in which most of the elephant costumes that are seen in a Perahera would contain different styles of flowers in respect to its different meanings. And now, following the elephant Sudumanike, we are seeing a Nayandi troupe of dancers who are being trained and led by Mr. Sarath Vijayasiri of the Upcountry Dance Faculty.
If you are to introduce the Nayandi dancers, Nayandi is the name of this particular costume, consisting of the lower part of the vest costume, but the headgear is replaced by a simple turban.
Coming back to the story of traditional dancing of Sri Lanka, as told before, the Candy Perahera would be depicting the best flavor of upcountry forms of dance. And most of the traditional forms of upcountry dancing has been originating from the Kohumbaya Kankari healing ritual, which has its own interesting stories to tell. And the Nayandi dance is the junior version of the most symbolic dance of the Kohumbaya Kankari, which is the West dance. In fact, for a traditional dancer to become a West dancer, it is considered at its most supreme state. And in order to reach the state of being a West dancer, all of these artists must first need to master the craft of Nayandi in order to proceed to be a West dancer in the future.
The opening ceremony of the new golden canopy of Sri Dalada Maligawa Relic chamber included yet another Janaraja Perahera that was held on the 31st of December 1987, which is also to remark the great services done by the former President of Sri Lanka, Honorable late Ranasinghe Premadasa, who had witnessed the procession with fellow parliamentarians from the Queen's Hotel in Kandy.
Just as we unfold to you the great tales of the Janaraja Perahera, great facts behind these dance acts and the elephants, this live broadcast is brought to you by the Special Projects and Media Bureau of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. Following these Nayan dances, we are seeing another junior elephant of the Perahera this evening, and she is Parami, who belongs to Mr. Samantha Vijayamana of Medagoda. Even though Parami is of a very young age of just 15, she has scored herself to be a very senior elephant in the Kandy Asala Perahera, where she is in fact the elephant who started walking as the accompanying Dalada elephant for the ceremonial elephant of the Sri Mahanatha Devala Perahera, which is indeed an achievement that can be get at this particular young age, which are solely due to her charismatic behavior and wonderful looks. Following Parami, we are now seeing the Paturu, or the woodclapper dance, led and trained by Mr. Nalin Jayasekara of the Sri Dalada Maligawa School of Dance.
If you're talking about this woodclappers dance or the Paturu dance, Nilesh, you will see that it may look like the Lee Kelly dance, but it surely has an unequal identity. The dancers with splinters or the Paturu or the woodclappers in their hands bang those splinters on the palm of their free hands. And also, to suit their dance, they have kept their upper bodies somewhat bare, but with a little garment on.
Just like how the Nayandi dance we saw previously was a dance which originated from a healing ritual, the dances such as the Paturu dance which we see in front of us are known as folk dancing or Jananatu, which simply depict the lifestyles of the rural lives of Sri Lanka.
Talking about these Paturu dances, they are wearing a light dress with a matted hair tied around their heads, and they chant verses while moving in rhythm. And this Paturu dance is adding a different type of color to the Janaraja Perahera 2023.
In fact, if you notice carefully, most of the other dance acts which we saw previously are of a slower tempo than the Paturu dance. And as we reach the climax of the Dalada Perahera segment of the Janaraja Perahera this evening, we are seeing how the Paturu dancers add a different form of flavor into the procession. As we conclude seeing the Paturu dancers, we are seeing one of the most majestic and the most senior elephant of the Perahera this evening. And this is the elephant Raja, belonging to Mrs. Sita Mallava of Hettimulla. Hettimulle Raja is one of the definite participants of the Dalada Perahera since the year 2005, and he did not fail to visit Kandy for the special Janaraja Perahera, which is happening after 13 years in this very day, the 19th of February 2023. And as we see the sight of Raja, now we are seeing a troupe of Pantheru dancers who are being led by Mr. Palita Hapugoda.
So the Pantheru is a small brass circular frame instrument with small cymbals fixed to it to give a subtle metallic sound as it shakes. It was originally used to keep the beat in the chamber of versifiers. Since the 18th century, this instrument was used for development of semi-classical dance form. The art was passed down from generation to generation.
it would not be wrong if I say that in order to watch the most authentic form of Pantheru dancing, you really need to visit a procession in Kandy.
Yes. So, looking at these instruments, the instrument is a regular to the Kavikara Maduva or chanting groups of the procession, who are also called the Chamber of Versifiers.
And now we are seeing another elephant dressed in the color of blue. And this little elephant, who is adding her beauty to the evening, is Suddhi, who belongs to Mr. Premasiri Kaluarachi of Habrana. Suddhi too is in fact a participant of the Kandy Asala Perahera, especially in the Dalada Perahera segment, since her childhood. And today we see how Suddhi takes careful strides in making her beauty in the Janaraja Perahera. And following Suddhi, we are seeing the Udakki dancers, who are being trained and led by Mr. M.B. Tennakon.
If you are to introduce the Udakki players or the Udakki dance, the Udakki is a hand drum and holds a special place in the Dalada celebrations. It is also played in the daily rituals of Sacred Tooth Relic. And today, you're witnessing the Udakki players glamorizing the Janaraja Perahera, which is happening in the year 2023.
The final Janaraja Perahera till date was held in the year 2009 to commemorate the victory of the 30-year civil war that Sri Lanka had been facing with great calamity, and this procession was organized in grace of the former president, His Excellency Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksha, during the reign of the current Diyawara Nilame, Honorable Pradeep Ilangadala.
Coming back to the Udakki dance, the instrument Udakkiya is used as a tool that provides the steady beat or note to the Kavikara Maduva or chanting group. The dancers in the middle forming what is known as the Udakki Gataya. The knot with the long stripes of the Udakkiya is used to modulate the sounds of the drum.
Regardless of age, all these performers are taking part in great prestige, since it is believed that taking part in the Kandy Perahera can be one of the greatest achievements for any traditional artist.
Actually, Nilesh, the dance of these Udakki players is relatively simple.
Indeed. And we see a very simple elephant here, just like the Udakki dance which you just mentioned. And she is Devmini, belonging to Venerable Boralande Vajranyana Thero, the chief incumbent of the Sambodhi Vihara in Colombo. And now we are seeing the Raban Krida, a very differentiated and unique performance of the Kandy Perahera, which has been trained and led by Mr. Aryapala Vijayamanna.
Talking about the Rabana, it has a very simple yet evocative sound. So in Raban dance, neither the mind nor the body moves as fast as the spinning Rabana, and great skill is required to manipulate the instrument well. The Rabana is used not only to worship Lord Buddha but also to worship the goddess Patini. So Nilesh, looking at this Janaraja Perahera, you might think that it looks the same as the Asala Perahera that we see each year, right?
Indeed, the looks and the feel would be the same, but it can be noted from deep study that the Janaraja Perahera has significant differences from the Asala Perahera despite its outlook similarities.
As we are looking at these Raban dances, their costumes are glamorous with the beautiful mantle and the colorful headdress with the add-on earrings and anklets. And the spinning Rabana, as we can see, also reminds us of the impermanence of life. It's an example that we may lose our life in an instant, the same way that the Rabana breaks free from the rod or stick on which it is spinning. Once again, it should be noted that each step and each dance has a very special meaning behind that.
And that reflects the true authenticity of the traditional forms of dance. None of these, as you said, is simply a form of art or a typical dance. In fact, all of these moves, all of these chants, and all what is included in this play do have its own meaning. And following that beautiful dance, we now see a very special elephant who is yet new to the city of Kandy. And he is the elephant Nilame, belonging to Mrs. Nilanthi Veerasinghe of Mirigama. And the speciality I told before is that Nilame too is not a participant of the Kandy Asala Perahera, but we see very happy to see him today in the Janaraja Perahera. And following the great grace of Nilame, we are seeing a mixed folk dance which is being trained by Mr. P.C.V. Vijay Surya. This special live broadcast is brought to you by the Sri Dalada Maligawa Media and Special Projects Bureau.
So, if you have to talk about the mixed folk dance of Janaraja Perahera 2023, this is somewhat a modern concept to combine different types of traditional folk dances in one group. There are a combination of Likeli, the stick dance, Thalam, the small cymbal dance, Savaram, the tassel dance, Chamara, the large tassel dance, as well as Raban, the tambourine dance. And different to the other classical dance forms, this mixed folk dance is more colorful, joyful, diverse in dancing patterns, energetic and fast-paced, adding color and glamour to the Janaraja Perahera, which is happening in year 2023.
Initially we discussed about the differences between the Janaraja Perahera and the Asala procession. And if we are to point out what these differences are, it is evidently ensured that there will not be any form of religious intervention for this Perahera, where the relic casket will not be carried in this event.
there won't be any sprinkling of flowers, no singing or playing tunes that recite the virtues of the Buddha. No white carpets for the ceremonial tasker, no chamber of versifiers, and no Nagasingha instrumentalists.
The four main Devala processions of gods Natha, Vishnu, Kataragama and Pattini will also be accompanying the king's procession, but with the exemption of carrying the requelaries or statues of the respective gods.
However, Nilesh, Diyavadana Nilame of the Sri Dalada Maligawa and the Basnayaka Nilames of the four main Devala shrines and the outskirt Devala shrines shall walk in proud majesty.
And now we see the elephants, Sita belonging to Mrs. Nilanthi Veerasinghe of Meerigama, alongside with the elephant Mali belonging to Mr. Chatura Vikramanayaka of Horana. And in fact, both Sita and Mali are very special elephants to the city of Kandy and the tradition of the Kandi Perahera, where both Sita and Mali were in fact the accompanying or the Dala elephants of the ceremonial tusker of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devala procession. But today we see them relaxed in the Dalada Perahera segment. And now we are about to see the highlight of this evening's Janaraja Perahera, where the ceremonial tusker shall be carrying the national emblem of Sri Lanka, and this tusker will be accompanied, escorted by the West dancers.
So, in ancient times, the West dancers obtained a royal honor after they dispelled unseen inimical forces that threatened the life of the king of Panduvasnura. Therefore, in the procession, in order to pay their respect to the national emblem today, the king and the Nilame, they line the path in which they tread in two files of dancers. The dance is accompanied by the Getabera drummers in honor of the secret road tooth relic in Asala Perahera, and today, so the national emblem, they perform only specific dance items in the procession.
In fact, the art of West dancing can only be seen in very special occasions in Sri Lanka. And right now we are seeing the national emblem of Sri Lanka, which is being carried in reverential form on the mount of this ceremonial tusker. And for the very first time, the tusker Kandula, belonging to Venerable Kollupitiye Mahinda Sangarakita Thero, the chief incumbent of the historic Kalaniya Rajamaha Vihara, stepped forth from the Mahavahalkada down to the Sandagala as a ceremonial tusker for the very first time in his life, being the ceremonial tusker of the Janaraja Perahera 2023. And this evening, Kandula is accompanied by the elephants, who is also Kandula, belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa stable, and the elephant Gamunu, belonging to Mr. Ratnasiri Arangalla of Veyangoda. And now we see pictures of the 9th Executive President of Sri Lanka, Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, paying respect to the national emblem, as we see this great troop of ceremonial elephants walking in great pride, dressed in glamorous costumes, walking down the streets of Kandy, down the Dalada Vidya, Yatinura Vidya and Rajavidya, as they progress with the national emblem along the way. And after the troop of ceremonial tuskers, we are seeing the second troop of West dancers. And the West dancers who we saw previously were led by Mr. Ishanta Ihalavela and Mr. Lasantu Bansekara. And the West dancers in front of us right now are being led by Mr. Sanjeeva Verapitiya and Mr. Peter Surasinghe, who will be escorting the way for the Diyavadana Nilame.
So, coming back to the history and the story of West dance, The most unique and the most recognized of the Kandyan dance heritage is a fully adorned West Natua or the Kandyan dance, which we are witnessing today as the West dance. The Kandyan dance's skill and the dance form have been considered an expression of Sri Lankan culture. The West dance is more than just a ritual. It is a sacred recitation for protection against misfortune. Therefore, the dancer's costume is also considered sacred. And today, this West dance is blessing the country, the nation and its people by glamorizing the Janaraja Perahera of year 2023.
In the ancient times, in this particular occasion of the Perahera, it was the king himself who graced the parade. But now, we see the arrival of the Honorable Diyavadra Nilame himself, who is adding his much needed majesty into this Janaraja Perahera, giving us no doubt that the king is still parading in the procession. Escorted by these majestic West dancers, we are seeing the arrival of the Honorable Diyavadra Nilame of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, Pradeep Nilangadala, who is extending nearly 19 years of service to the sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha in the Sri Dalada Maligawa. Surrounding the Diyavadra Nilame, we see a troop of Murayuda or weapons which are used to protect or symbolize protection to the Diyavadra Nilame, and he is followed by the Vidanes of the 10 villagers which are officiated with the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
And to add something, Nilesh, this presence of the Nilame, the Vidanes and the guards are to symbolize the free society of the nation that is under the watchful protection of the king.
While that marks the end of the Dalada Perahera segment, the Janaraja Perahera this evening will not just confine itself to the Sri Dalada Maligawa, but shall also include processions representing the 4 main Devala shrines: the processions of the Sri Maha Natha Devalaya, the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya, the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya, and the Sri Maha Pattini Devalaya, which will be followed by the Sri Dalada Maligawa procession. Commencing now the procession of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya. Leading the way in the Sri Mahanatha Devala procession this evening are the troop of Buddhist flag bearers who are once again represented by a national flag. God Natha is believed to be the god who is next to attain Buddhahood, which is the very reason why the procession of God Natha will be following the procession of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. And this evening, even though we do not see any requiliaries, insignia, or any statues of gods being carried reverentially in the procession, this is to symbolically represent that the procession of the god of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya too will pledge this Janaraja Perahera. And following the Buddhist flag bearers, we are now seeing the official troop of Hevisi representing the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya.
As we mentioned priorly, this Hevisi group presenting the traditional orchestra of Sinhala music of Panchaturya Vadana using Panchaturya Banda, which are called 5/4 music instruments. The instruments include Daul, Tammattam, hand cymbals and Horanara, which is a traditional Sri Lankan horn, are played together to create a symphonic sound. This is assigned to the most skilled Hevisi generation of the temple to ensure the instruments that are played in correct order.
In fact, these Hevisi instrumentalists are seconded to the service of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya itself, who are responsible for the daily, monthly and yearly offerings of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya in Kandy, which are represented by the lineages that has been taking down this task from many generations before. And now we see the Gajanayak Nilame of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya in Kandy, who is on the mount of the elephant Taraka belonging to Mr. Gayan Hinkenda of Kandy. Mr. Gayan Hinkenda was in fact the former Basnayak Nilame of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya in Kandy and the current Basnayak Nilame of the Sumana Saman Devalaya in Mahayangana, where Tarak himself had been a very routine participant of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya processions in his history.
As we mentioned before, Nilesh, it might look and feel the same as the Asala Perahera that we witness every year. But the Janaraja Perahera has a special and unique meaning for itself, and it has so many differences compared to the Asala Perahera of Sri Dalada Maligawa. So as the spectators and the people of the nation, I think that we are blessed to witness such an occasion this year. Next online, in the Natha Devala procession, we see the Chamara dance. Once again, to tell you a bit more about Chamara dances, it is a popular folk dance that symbolizes fanning. The white tassels are fanned to a rhythm, and the slight breeze it produces brings a pleasant feeling. This was a regular feature in the royal courts in ancient times, and today you're witnessing the Chamara dance for the second time in the Natha Devala procession of the Janaraja Perahera 2023.
And now, following these Savarang dancers, we are seeing another young majestic elephant taking his careful strides in the procession of God Natha. This elephant is Sudu Mahatya, belonging to the fourth magistrate, Mr. Thilina Gamage. Sudu Mahatya had been a very occasional participant of the Sri Mahapattini Devala Perahera, and this year we see very interesting to see how Sudu Mahatya has joined the procession of God Natha in this Janaraja Perahera 2023.
Now you're witnessing the Pantheru dances of the Natha Devala procession of Janaraja Perahera 2023. So this instrument is a regular to the Kavikara Madhva or chanting groups of the procession, who are also called the Chamber of Versifiers. The ring is a thin circle of light brass. Therefore, the dance of the Pantheru players is subtle and soft. The simplicity of the dance form brings to mind the simplicity and evenness required in the daily lives of people as the troupe steps forward on the streets of city. Once again, Nilesh, should be noted that Janaraja Perahera itself is a symbol of Sri Lankan traditions, culture and its dignity.
Indeed. following this troupe of Pantheru dancers, we are seeing yet another special elephant to the Sri Mahanatha Devala in Kandy, and he is none other than the elephant Panduka, belonging to the Ganevatta Kataragama Devala in Piliyandala, under the bearership of Mr. Chandana Katriyarachi. The speciality about Panduka is that many years ago, till 2012, it was this elephant Panduka who had been carrying the godly ornaments of God Natha in the Kandy Asala Perahera, and we are very happy to see Panduka back in the procession of God Natha after many years. As you can see, Pasasna, the garments worn by these elephants of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya and most other symbols of the Perahera are in the color yellow, which is to symbolize the color of God Natha, since it is believed in the tradition that God Natha is of the color saffron. And following Panduka, we are seeing a troupe of wood tappers or the Lekeli dancers.
So in the main procession, we witnessed the Paturu dances, and now we are witnessing the Lekeli dancers who have a similar feeling as the Paturu dancers, but they have a very different and unequal vibe than the Paturu dance that we saw before.
Indeed. The speciality about the Lekeli dance form is that the involvement of the team spirit, where they do not just dance alone, but they use the company of their partner. And following the Lekeli dancers, we see two more elephants having their company with each other, and they are none other than Kumari and Panchali, the aunt and the daughter, belonging to Mr. Kamal Irugal Bandara of Kottawa. And in fact, both Kumari and Panchali are routine participants of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya, where in fact last year it was Kumari who walked for the very first time as a Dala elephant for the ceremonial tusker of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya. And in this part of the procession, unlike the Kandy Asala Perahera, we won't be seeing a ceremonial tusker who will be carrying the godly ornaments of God Natha, but instead we will be seeing the arrival of the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya.
Yes. Welcoming the Basnayaka Nilame is the West Dance group. So, talking about the West dancers once again, West dance is the most unique and the most recognized of the Kandyan dance heritage and is fully adorned with Nattuva or the Kandyan dancer. The Kandyan dancer's skill and dance form have been considered as an expression of Sri Lankan culture. The West dance is more than just a ritual. It is a sacred recitation for protection against misfortune. Therefore, the dancer's costume is also considered sacred. So, as they and their dance symbolize the protection, now they are welcoming and they are clearing the streets for the arrival of the Basnayaka Nilame of the Natha Devalaya.
The Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya, Mr. Shanaka Bandaranayaka will not be taking part in the procession this evening, but representing him, we see the Basnayaka Nilame of the Vegiriyanatha Devalaya in Gampala, Basnayaka Nilame Anura Sudanta Iriyagama. Among the many rural shrines that belong to the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya, we see the Dodangala Natha Devalaya, the Vegiriya Natha Devalaya, and many other Natha Devalayas around. And this evening, the Basnayak Nilame, who is representing the Basnayak Nilame of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya, Basnayak Nilame Anura Iriyagama, is the Basnayak Nilame of the Vegiriya Natha Devalaya, which is one of the most oldest rock cave temples that is located in the county of Udunuwara. And the Basnayak Nilame is followed by his team of Murayuda, or the weapons of protection. And now we are seeing the arrival of the procession of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya in Kandy. The Vishnu Devalaya in Kandy, known as the Mahadevalaya, is considered since history as the most seconded place to the Sri Dalada Maligawa, where in history the Mahadevalaya had played a prominent position among the offerings and the Perahera of the Sri Dalada Maligawa itself. And leading the way, we see a national flag bearer who is followed by the provincial flag bearers of the Sri Mahavishnu Devalaya. In fact, Pasasna, God Vishnu is considered to be the protector of Sri Lanka, which is why we see the provincial flags representing all 9 provinces and the other counties being walked in this procession to symbolize the fact that Lord Vishnu is overlooking all of these provinces, districts and counties.
As you mentioned, Nilesh, that fact would make this Janaraja Perahera more significant because it is held to celebrate the victory of this country who has been independent for many decades.
Indeed, and over here we see the sun and moon flag of the Satara Korale, lion flag of the Sat Korale, white flag of Matale, silk flag of Sabargamu, and many other flags that followed. And now we are seeing a very special tusker of the Sri Mahavishnu Devalaya this evening, who is Rama, belonging to Mr. Tudor Gunasekara of Heyanthudua. Rama is in fact the ceremonial tusker of the Sri Mahavishnu Devalaya, who is responsible to carry the godly ornaments of Vishnu across all 11 days of the Kandy Asala Perahera. And what would be a procession of the Sri Mahavishnu Devalaya be without this majestic single-tusked Rama? And following Rama, we see the official Hay Visit group of the Sri Mahavishnu Devalaya representing the Alutnura lineage of drummers. Speaking about the flags which we saw previously, it also had to be mentioned that we saw the Behirunda Pakshya, or the bird that depicts to be the vehicle of God Vishnu, representing the flag of the Tunkorale, the peacock flag of Uvavelassa, the lotus flag of the Budapalata, which represented the states, and following that, it also represented the flags of the counties, Uvavelassa, Bintanna, Tamakadu, Udunuwara, Yatinuwara, Dumbara, Hewahata, Kotmale, Udabulatgama, and Patabulatgama.
Yes, once again, you're witnessing the Hay Visit group, which is adding different kind of colors with their sounds to the Janaraja Perahera 2023. we move on, Nilesh, we see another elephant dressed in blue. Why blue actually?
Just like how we saw the elephants of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya being dressed in the color yellow to represent the saffron shade of God Natha, it is believed that the complexion of God Vishnu is blue, or rather dark. And the very reason why we see all the elephants and many other symbolic elements of the Perahera being dressed in the color blue is to symbolize that this is the procession of God Vishnu. And this very special elephant visiting Kandy for the very first time is the elephant Pulasti, belonging to Venerable Kotugoda Samasara Thero of the International Peace Temple of Gampaha. Following the elephant Pulasti, we are seeing a troupe of Nayandi dancers. In fact, the Sri Maha Vishnu Devala procession is never complete without a full orchestra of all forms of Kandyan dance, and it is evident that the Nayandi dance form too needs to take its special place in the procession of God Vishnu.
So once again, the Nayandi dance adds a special glamour to this event. And we see that it looks a little bit different than what we saw in the Nayandi dance at the first and the main procession.
Following these Nayandi dances, we see two elephants. The first is Sandev Raja, belonging to Mr. Pradeep Miyanapalava of Mavanella, followed by the elephant Vasala, belonging to Venerable Anamaduwe Dhammadasi Thero, the chief incumbent of the Atkanda Rajamahavihara in Kurunagala. And with the walk of Sandev Raja and Vasala, we are seeing a Pantheru dance act.
It should be noted that Pantheru dance is a very special dance item in Sri Dalada Perahera or the Janaraja Perahera. Isn't that, Nilesh?
Indeed.
So, talking about this Pantheru once again, it is a small brass circular frame instrument with small cymbals fixed to it to give a subtle metallic sound as it shakes. It was originally used to keep the beat in the chamber of versifiers. Since the 18th century, the instrument was used for development of semi-classical dance form. The art was passed down from generation to generation.
Did you know, Pasasna, that the instrument, which is the Pantheru, indeed has a symbolic meaning to the procession of God Vishnu, where in certain legends it is believed that the Pantheru depicts the Chakrayuda that is held as a weapon by God Vishnu. And in that sense, it is quite important to note the importance of the Pantheru dance act in the procession of God Vishnu.
The most interesting fact about Sri Dalada Perahera, the Janaraja Perahera, is, Nilesh, every little detail manifests a certain meaning. And it is very interesting.
Just as you brought that point, I can relate another story which we can see in the elephant dress that is followed. God Vishnu is known to be the ruling god of the Satara Koralaya. And the elephant dress that is seen before in the two elephants which we see is designed in the theme of the flag of the Satarakorale, depicting the sun and the moon. And wearing this dress, we see the elephants Vasana belonging to Mrs. Krishanti Alapatha of Ratnapura and the elephant Muthu belonging to Mr. Indika Mudunkot of Manikinna. And both Vasana and Muthu are very senior participants of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya. And just like in similar days to the Asala Perahera, we won't be seeing a ceremonial tusker of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya who would be carrying an insignia or ceremonial godly ornaments of God Vishnu, since this is the Janaraja Perahera. But instead, we do have the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya pending his approach next, and he is welcomed by these West dancers who are performing the particular Narumatra, which is by holding the two ends of the loincloths together, which is one of the most interesting segments of the traditional West dance.
Yes. So as the drums beat, the dancer moves his hands, feet and body in perfect harmony with fellow performers until the crescendo of his performance, which is everyone in the audience awaits in anticipation. And the dancers observe their traditional rituals and obtain permission to dance in the procession. And that is one of the main reasons that makes West dance a very prestigious one. However, those who dance at today's Grand Janaraja Perahera are those who have both with a great habit and skill in the performance of this art form.
And now we see the arrival of the Honorable Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya in Kandy, and also the Alutnuwara Dadimunda Devalaya in Alutnuwara, Honorable Mahindra Tushanta Ratwatta. The role of the Basnayaka Nilame of the Maha Devalaya is considered to be of much importance, who is seconded only to the Diyavadana Nilame, where in the ancient times and even now there are occasions where in certain Ramdoli Peraharas, the Diyavadana Nilame can only be replaced by the Basnayaka Nilame of the Mahadevalaya or the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya in Kandy. And now we see the arrival of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devala Perahera. The Sri Maha Kataragama Devala in Kandy is the only Devala shrine that is located beyond the outskirts of the Sri Dalada Maligawa premises, which is located down in the Kotugudella Vidya, formerly known as the Kavikara Vidya in Kandy, where it used to be the place where all the poets of the kingdom used to reside. And now we see the flag bearers of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya being led by a flag bearer of the national flag. And the speciality of these flags is that they depict the peacock, which is in fact the vehicle of God Kataragama. Following these flag bearers, we see another very special elephant of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devala procession, who is yet again taking part in the Kandy Perahera for the very first time. And this is the elephant Samurti, belonging to the Sri Sudarshana Rama temple in Haliyala, located in Badura. In fact, the Kandy Perahera consists of many elephants who take part from various areas of the city. We saw elephants from the city of Kandy, from the city of Ratnapur, the city of Colombo, from the city of Mathura, and now Samudri himself is an example of an elephant who comes all the way from the city of Madura. And following Samudri, we see the official heavy troop of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devala in Kandy, which is trained and led by Mr. P.V. James Gurunat Singh.
So as in the Janaraja Perahera 2023, you are now witnessing the official Hevisi troupe of Sri Kataragama Devalaya, Kendi.
It has to be specially noted that all of these different Hevisi troops have their own tunes which are unique to the particular Devalaya, where if you would have listened carefully, the tunes played by the Sri Dalada Maligawa, the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya and the Sri Mahavishnu Devalaya would be of complete difference to the tunes which we are now hearing in the Sri Kataragama Devalaya Perahera. And following the troop of Hevisi, we are seeing a very special elephant, and he is yet one of the most senior elephants of the Kandy Perahera, who is taking part in the procession of God Kataragama for the very first time. And this is the elephant Banda, belonging to Mr. Sisira Samarakon of Damunapola in Polgahavela. The difference in the Sri Kataragama Devala procession is that it takes the tune, the tempo and the flavor of the Kandy Perahera into a complete different level, where we see the inclusion of modern day South Indian influenced dance acts of the Sri Kataragama Devala procession, which creates the vibe of South India. And the reason why we see the peacock here is that peacock is considered as the vehicle of God Kataragama, and a procession dedicated to God Kataragama, regardless of its location around the country, would always be never incomplete without a performance of the peacock.
Yes, Nilesh. So it is indeed another reason to call this nation, Sri Lanka, a multi-diverse nation with different types of people. And also, this type of occasion or procession symbolizes the essence of this country and the nation. And that is why we can note this Janaraja Perahera of year 2023 as a very special event which is happening in this year.
We are celebrating the 75th year of independence, and what would independence be without the unity of Sri Lankans? And the Perahera itself shows us how the unity of all these cultures can get together in order to make Sri Lanka not just an independent country, but a country that is united with so much of flavor, so much of authenticity, and so much of goodness in order to win together as one.
Exactly, Nilesh. So as we are witnessing these dances, we can hear the unique sounds that we didn't hear in the main procession and the rest of the Devala processions.
Indeed, this particular music, which we call as papari in Sinhalese, is in fact a modern day mix of both South Indian and Western musical instruments. And just to let you know about a little international touch to this particular dance is that the peacock dance which we see in front of us is also known as the Mailattam dance, which is performed in southern India in the regions of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. And the particular drums which we see in front of us is the Tawil drum, which is not just used for this Western Indian music, but is also used for the particular offerings, the sound offerings towards God Kataragama. The most highlighted event of any occasion that is dedicated to God Kataragama is the troupe of Kawadi dancers. Kawadi is in fact a freestyle form of dance. More than a dance, it could be called as an offering of energy towards God Kataragama. It is believed that the best form of offering that can be given to God Kataragama would be energy and sweat. And it is the practice of most of these pilgrims to dance to their heart's contents in order to perform their best. And now we are seeing another elephant who is taking part in the procession, who is the elephant Sita, belonging to Mr. Roshan Patirana of Maharagama. Sita is one of the very few fortunate female elephants in the Kandy Perahera to have the chance to carry the godly ornaments of goddess Pattini back in the year 2014, which is one of the rare occasions that took place in the Kandy Asala Perahera.
Yes. Following Sita, you are now witnessing once again a Pantheru dance, which is glamorizing the Perahera of the procession of Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya, Kandy. As we witnessed some dance items which had influence from other countries, we have to remind ourselves that Sri Lankans are a nation. Sri Lankans are a group of people who are always welcoming and who are always eager to embrace new cultures and new people with their warm hearts.
Indeed. And following this troupe of Pantheru dancers, we see the elephant Raju belonging to Mr. Chamila Bandaranayaka of Gannoru in Kandy. And when speaking about the Bandaranayaka family of Gannoru, we can never forget the great Gannoru elephant, who was the tallest elephant ever to take part in the Kandy Asala Perahera since history. And with his device, we did not see a participant from the Bandaranayaka family of Gannoru, but we see the young elephant Raju with so much of promises to be one of the most majestic elephants who could parade in the Kandy Perahera in the future. And following Raju, we see the continuation of the Kavadi troupe of dancers. And the speciality which we can note once again here is that none of these dancers are choreographed, unlike the dancers which we saw previously, where it's almost a freestyle dance. And with speaking about the weapons which they are holding, we see the Kavadian, which is in fact a symbolic representation by these pilgrims that they are carrying God Kataragama on their shoulders. In addition, we see the Trishul, also known as the Trident, which is known as the weapon which was used by Shiva, who is the father of God Kataragama. And also the triangular shaped weapon which we see is the Velaide, which is known as the authentic weapon of God Kataragama himself.
Along with those information, Nilesh, I can't help but to notice the different vibe and the difference that the procession of Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya's music brings to this Janaraja Perahera 2023.
The Kandy Perahera is always a celebration of culture, a celebration of different arts. And the procession of Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya does not prove to fail so.
And also I can't help but to notice the faces of these dancers. They are so devoted and committed, and they are dancing with their hearts to pay the respect to the god Kataragama.
The Janaraja Perahera is not just special for me because of the independence, but I also see the speciality of these rare elephants who are taking part. And this is the elephant Udaya belonging to the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya in Kandy itself, who is taking part in the Kandy Perahera after a break of many years. And now we see the arrival of the troupe of West dancers, not to welcome the ceremonial tusker, who will be carrying the godly ornaments of God Kataragama, unlike in the Kandy Asala Perahera. But instead, just like the other Devala processions what we saw, we see the arrival of the Honorable Basnayak Nilame of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya, who is escorted by these West dancers.
So actually, when it comes to West dance, the origin and the birth of West dance trace back to the time of King Pandukavaya. And the West dancer's costume, which is considered sacred, consists of 64 different pieces of accessories. West dancers have become an icon of our beautiful country. So that is why I assume, Nilesh, that they are the ones who are welcoming the one of the most important people of the procession.
In talking to you about who exactly the role Basnayak Nilame is, the Basnayak Nilame is the lay custodian that is responsible for the administration and the daily operative functions of the particular shrine, who is elected using the elections that are held on a 5-year basis. And for the very first time, we see a new Basnayak Nilame representing the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya, who is just within his first month of service. And the Basnayak Nilame of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya in Kandy and the Pasgama Natha Devalaya in Hewahata, Basnayak Nilame Daminda Bandara Uduravana walking up front in the Kandy Perahera for the very first time, representing himself as the chief Basnayak Nilame of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya in Kandy. If you would have noticed carefully, it's part of the costume of the Basnayak Nilame, which we call as the Muluenduma, the costume worn by god Dadimunda, which has evolved its way to be the royal costume of the kings, which are still being worn by these Basnayak Nilames. And the color worn by the Basnayak Nilame Daminda Bandara Uduravana is symboling the color red, which is in fact the color of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devala traditions itself. In fact, the Basnayak Nilame Daminda Bandara Uduravana is one of the heirs of the previous Devada Nilames of the Sri Maha Dalada Maligawa, Devada Nilame Heen Banda Uduravana. Just like how these customs and traditions passed over from generations, we are seeing the arrival of the final segment of the Janaraja Perahera this evening, the procession of the Sri Maha Pathini Devalaya.
Opening the procession of Sri Maha Pathini Devalaya, now you are seeing the flag bearers walking up in front, and leading the flag bearers is the national flag bearer and then the Buddhist flag bearers, adding colors and adding blessings to this event. As you can see, this is the final segment of Janaraja Perahera, which is happening in 2023.
And these flag bearers are being represented by the Civil Defence Authority. Now we see the arrival of the official Hevisi troop of the Sri Maha Pathini Devalaya, who are being led and trained by Mr. M.G. Palikani Shankar, Mr. M.G. Sirisena and Mr. M.G. Premadasa.
Following the Hevesi troop, we see a very special elephant once again.
I would like to speak about the costume worn by this elephant Pasasna. In fact, the particular batik costume symbolizes a cycle which depicts the 7 births of goddess Pattini. And this elephant is Bibila, belonging to Mr. Udara Galapati of Giriulla. And you can see the mango, the tears of the snake, and the water, which show the 7 births of goddess Pattini. And on the mount of Bibila, we saw the Gajanayaka Nilame of the Sri Mahapattini Devalaya. And now we see a female Panteru dance performance, which is trained by Mrs. Vindhya Kulasiri of the Jayashani Upcountry Aesthetic Academy of Gorakhpur. Just like how we mentioned the similarity or the Just like how we mentioned before in the procession of God Vishnu, the connection with the Panteru and God Vishnu, there is an even more famous tradition behind the Panteru and goddess Pattini.
Yes, Nilesh. Can we know what it is?
Indeed. So just like how we mentioned before that the Panteru is in fact the Chakrayuda of God Vishnu, it is also known that the Panteru descends from the anklet or the Salamba Balalla, which is worn by goddess Pattini. And another special feature of the Sri Mahapattini Devala Perahera is that this is the only segment in the Kandi Perahera where we see the female representation of artists taking part. And now we see the second elephant, who is also a female elephant, just like how we saw the female dancers before. And she is the elephant Kanchana, once again belonging to Mr. Udara Galapati of Giriulla. The tradition of goddess Pattini is that most of the participants and the elephants are dressed in the color yellow, which is known to be connected with the cult of goddess Pattini. And following the elephant Kanchana, we are seeing another mixed folk dance, which is also known as the Agri dance or the Goyam Natuma, which is trained by Mrs. Takshila Sirivardhana of the Takshila Aesthetic Academy of Yatihalagala. In contrast to the previous mixed folk dance what we saw Pasasna, over here we are seeing a set of tools and equipment that are used in the daily lives of the agricultural society of Sri Lanka. And among them, we are seeing the heap of leaves, we are seeing the dakatta, we are seeing the sieve or the kulla, which are some of the equipment and tools that are used generally by the folklore of the agricultural society of Sri Lanka. And isn't it interesting to know how this can be combined into a dance form to give a picture to whoever who's watching the Perahera from a different country, to get an idea about how the daily lifestyle of a villager can be combined using this dance. And following this mixed folk dance, we are seeing a very special elephant, and she is Kuweni, belonging to Mr. Mahinda Millangoda of Kegol. Kuweni is in fact one of the very precious names in Sri Lankan history, isn't it, Pasasna?
Yes, indeed, Nilesh. Kuweni is a very special name, and it takes us to ancient times. That name takes us to the most ancient times. So, what is the speciality about Kuweni, English?
Indeed, so Kuweni is considered to be one of the first royalties of Sri Lanka, who was married to Prince Vijaya, who is known to have discovered this land of Sri Lanka. And this is where we are today. And taking a look back at the screen, we are seeing once again a very special dance which is known as the female counterpart of the Nayan dance, which is once again trained and led by Miss Lakshmi Kumari of the Ketumati Istrik Academy of Murtalava. In Sinhalese, this particular dance act is known as the Paimpata. Just like how we spoke about in the West Dance Act, reaching the attainment of being a West dancer would be the best that a male dancer can go for. When it comes to the females, being a pine path holder can be one of the best achievements. And following that troop of female dancers, we are seeing two more lovely female elephants. Rani, belonging to Mr. S.M. Samaranayaka of the Vilambuda Kande Devalaya, and the elephant Manike, belonging to Mrs. Shriyani Gunawardana of Dangovita. And following Rani and Manike, we are now seeing the final troop of West dancers this evening. Not to welcome the ceremonial elephant who will be carrying the godly ornaments of the statue of goddess Pattini, unlike the Kandi Asala Perahera, but to welcome the Honorable Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Pattini Devalaya in Kandi. And this troop of West dancers are being trained and led by Mr. Chandana Jayaratna of the Chandana Istrik Academy of Matale.
Once again, it should be noted, Nilesh, that the procession of Sri Mahapattini Devalaya is very significant because it shows the only female representation of the Kandi Dalada procession.
It is interesting to note that the order of these four gods are being ordered in a way in such that in the order that they will attain Buddhahood. So it can be identified that goddess Pattini too is a god who is aspiring to be or to attain Buddhahood in the future.
Yes, throughout the procession, we saw Sri Lankan culture and its colors, which had been carrying over for many years since the ancient times. So now we are coming towards the end of the Janaraja Perahera 2023.
And before that, let us take a note to introduce the Basnayak Nilame, who is representing the procession of the Sri Mahapattini Devalaya this evening. Walking up in great pride, we see the Honorable Basnayak Nilame of the Sri Mahapattini Devalaya in Kandi, the Pattini Devalaya in Hanguranketa, and the Pattini Devalaya in Vilbava Kurunagala. Basnayak Nilame, Honorable Hemantha Bandara Hera. We see pictures of the Honorable Basnayak Nilame of the Sri Mahapattini Devalaya in Kandi, the Hanguranketa Pattini Devalaya in Hanguranketa, and the Vilbava Pattini Devalaya in Kurunagala. Basnayak Nilame, Honorable Hemantha Bandara Herath, who is surrounded by his army of warriors, symbolizing protection to the Basnayak Nilame.
And with that concludes the special live broadcast of the special procession of Janaraja Perahera.
Sri Lanka had faced various turbulences since its history, but let us all keep in our minds that we always had our chance to win over them. Unity is our strength, dedication is our key, and a patriotic mind shall be our force. May Sri Lanka prosper. Ayubho Veva.